Hi, I'm Carrie Blazer, the Divine Feminine, reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. Thank you for clicking on my clip. But I want to let you know that I have a free ebook linked below, my 6 Divine Feminine Self-Love Strategies. They will help you transform your emotional wounds into personal wisdom. And I take a multidisciplinary approach. I include the laws of physics, psychology, neuroscience, shamanism, mysticism. I went wild, okay? So men can understand and women can understand. There's something there for everyone because what I learned is when something's true, it's true in multiple places. All right, please like and subscribe and help me distribute my ebook to everyone for free by exploding my channel. Take care. Enjoy the clip. Bye. So we talked about how the universe is a mirror. Now let's talk about surfing the waves of life. And all of these are in my free ebook below in the description. So let me bring up this physics experiment that shows about surfing the waves of life. And then we'll talk about it.
And take a closer look. Now, this is a classic physics problem where we that start at the same position and end at the same position, but their path from one side to the other is completely different. Now, these balls are able to roll down the tracks, so the question is, if I were to release them simultaneously, which track would get the ball to the opposite side the quickest? Well, let's give it a try. So the shortest distance between 2 points is not necessarily the fastest.
And that is the point. That when we surrender to our fear, guilt, and shame, which takes us down into our shadow, into our subconscious, into our wounds that are lying to us. Like I had a wound, fear all men. I also had a wound that I feared if I apologize, my loved ones will leave me. That's not, neither are logical, right? But the natural process when you're a child is you learn to surrender to your fear, guilt, and shame. That process is mirrored by your healthy parents. And then you get the wisdom down in your shadow or the knowledge that you've solved your challenge. And then you climb your next mountaintop and you rely on the kinetic energy built by the surrender. Like you surrender to your emotions, to your heart, and then it communicates to the brain. The brain decides what to do. The heart is the feminine, the brain is the masculine. Like women drop a handkerchief, there's a surrender, and then men decide what to do. Well, for most of my life, until the past 10 years, all I knew how to do was sit in my fear, guilt, and shame, and I didn't know how to process it through because my parents didn't know how to process it through, and so I internalized that. And then I took it out, and then my kids internalized that. I was taught to let my kids cry it out, mostly my son, and that's not healthy for babies. I mean, there's a reason indigenous cultures always kept the baby on the mother. It was just intuitive because up to the age of like, especially 3 and then 7, even more, the child needs to be next to the mother to learn how to regulate its nervous system. But when we have grown adults who don't have regulated nervous systems, this is what happens. I used to be like that. I used to yell and scream and think I was right all day long, and why aren't they listening to me? I saw another video on a college campus of a college student saying, well, the louder I yell, you should listen to me more. I said, what? That's not mature, grown civil discourse. Just because you're yelling doesn't make you right. Just because you're showing more emotion, whether it's either equating emotion with correctness. Emotion's a subjective reality. We live in a holographic universe. The reality I perceive is different than the reality other people perceive. And it all starts in our childhood. So now let's get to Dr. Gabor Mate, who discusses the need for healthy attachment and then healthy individuation, healthy authenticity. And that creates a child with a secure attachment to self. Gotta love Dr. Mate. Okay, here he is. And those challenges in childhood is what creates addiction. When we are incapable of expressing ourselves authentically and then having our parents, mostly our mother, not tell us no, hear our emotions, help us process it through, help us learn to surf the waves of life. If a child is hitting another child like a 2-year-old, that child needs help learning to process his or her emotions. Punishing the child teaches a child to suppress his or her emotions, and it will come out later as something dangerous, something reactive, something not emotionally regulated, because the child has now learned to repress their emotions. I'm going to quote Carl Jung. Loneliness, or one does not feel loneliness because one has no one about them. One feels loneliness because one is incapable of expressing their true self. So when we repress kids and we teach them to look outside of themselves, to identify themselves, an external locus of control, we're teaching them to perceive reality in a way that's not true. We're teaching them a lie. And that sets us up for codependent relationship with ourselves. We put other people before ourselves. And so let's get back to this nurse who yelled, I'm going to hunt you down and fucking kill you. That came out of her heart. That's in her heart. So imagine, which is showing her herself, how she feels about herself. The universe shows us how we feel about ourselves, how we are, not how someone else is. We live in a holographic universe. I mean, it's very convenient for tons of self-improvement. Hence, this is why we come here as souls having a human experience or a buffalo experience or a beaver experience. We come here for the experience to learn and grow and expand our emotional range. As a divine feminine, I know now why I experienced enlightenment 2 years ago and what my soul's purpose is. It's to help, because I'm the heartbeat of the collective. So I took on a ton of emotional pain, helped the collective go deep down into its shadow. The deeper, life's like jumping on a trampoline. The deeper you go, the higher you fly. So to expand your emotional range, we have to explore our depths, our fear, our guilt and shame in order to catapult us to our heights, like the Surfing the Waves of Life showed us. We needed to build that kinetic energy, the propulsion momentum to that downward, to then propel us all to experience enlightenment. And I hope that that's where we're after.